Welcome to Wellspring. My name is Judy Bethman, and I'm part of your Sunday, May 22nd service team. Our announcements: early birds, of course, meet Sunday mornings at 9:30 via Zoom. The link is in the weekly email and on the website. Upcoming speakers: May 29th, we're going to have a video. June 5th, Peggy Shin. June 12th, Dr. Edward. June 19th, Reverend Kamatara, and June 26th, Dr. Edward. On Sunday, June 12th, Wellspring will be celebrating the quasi-full moon. The full moon is actually the 14th, with a barbecue starting at 6 o'clock. The church will provide drinks, potato salad, and chips. You will need to bring, what you want barbecued and a lawn chair. Bring musical instruments if you wish. The New Thought Ladies Luncheon Potluck will be Thursday, June 23rd at CSL, starting at 11:30. They haven't met since before COVID. And lastly, our prayer team remains ready to serve and support you. You may submit a request via our webpage. Our prayer team meets virtually on Tuesday afternoons at 4:15 to pray with you. You may consider sitting in your quiet space during that time. We know we are one in spirit, and the energy of prayer knows no limits. All right, it's time for the invocation. Let's sit back, take a deep breath in and out. You know, as we breathe, we are inviting Spirit to be a part of our bodies. So let's invite Spirit to be a part of our worship service. We know it's here always and forever, but I think Spirit likes to enjoy being invited in, particularly. So we continue as a community, as a nation, as a people, as a world, as a universe, to allow Spirit to direct ourselves forward to whatever destiny we have desired. And so it is. All right, stand if you are able. Doug obviously isn't here, so Edwin and I are going to be a poor replacement for Doug, but we're going to try anyway.
You must do your best. Do some clapping
here. It's all about Spirit, Spirit, Spirit. From now on, it's all about Spirit, Spirit, Spirit. From now on, it's all about the Spirit. If you listen, you can hear it. Spirit. From now on, it's all about joy, joy, love, love. From now on, it's all about love, love, love. From now on, it's all about love, love. From now on, it's all about joy, joy, joy. From now on, it's all about joy, joy, joy. From now on, outside the raging, without the patient. Joy. From now on, it's all about Spirit, Spirit, Spirit. From now on, it's all about Spirit, Spirit, Spirit. From now on, it's all about the Spirit. If you listen, you can hear it. Spirit. From now on, it's all about the Spirit. If you listen, you can hear it. Spirit. From now on. I apologize. I didn't know we had a joy slide. So he said to me, 10 minutes before service, can you put the words on a piece of paper so I don't have to look at the screen and so I forgot about this joy slide?
Turns
So,
out I should have looked at the screen.
yeah, well, that's okay. All right, it's time to read our vision, mission, and affirmation. Our vision: to elevate spiritual consciousness in our world. Our mission: to support individual spiritual quests through celebration, study, counsel, loving service, fellowship, and service. Our affirmation: I affirm that all my needs are met in the divine, as are the needs of this spiritual community. We are inspired, supported, and blessed to be a place where love shows up. All is well. All is well. All is well. Rather than move the whole stand over. Well, this isn't going to work. I guess I'm going to move the stand.
It was a good idea.
Well, then how am I going to hold the hymnal?
Oh, there you go.
My life flows on in endless song, a lover's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds and echoes in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me close? Songs in the night that giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that truth I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? I lift my eyes, the cloud grows thin. I see the blue above it, and day by day this pathway clears. Since first I learned to love it, the peace of God restores my soul, a fountain ever springing. All joy is mine since I am loved. How can I keep from singing? Thank you. Thank you, Edwin. Our reading today is from the Science of Mind, which we call the textbook. And it's on page 305, and it's titled No Personal Responsibility. Every idea is bound to produce an effect exactly like its cause. When we make a demonstration, we must take what goes with it. Therefore, all demonstrations should be made in peace, confidence, joy, and in a realization of divine love and perfection permeating everything. The reason for this is evident, for we are dealing with the law of cause and effect. We are not depending upon chance, but upon the law. The responsibility of setting the law in motion is ours, but the responsibility of making it work is inherent in its own nature. We must know that we are dealing with the substance from which all things are made. Nothing moves but mind, and we are dealing with the mind that is the mover, the creator, the cause of all that is or is to be. We should sense the back of the word which we speak is the power of the universe, surging to express itself. Then we speak the word consciously, knowing that it is law. And now I'd like to introduce our beloved Dr. Edward Burlbaw.
Thank you, Judy, for that reading. Nice to see all of you here today. Hello to those of you on Zoom land. So you might wonder, but you don't have to wonder for long, because the title of my talk today is, Are You Responsible? The reading reminded me of a talk that I gave about a month ago where I talked about prayer is an app, if you recall that. And quoting the reading here that Judy just read, the responsibility of setting the law in motion is ours. However, the responsibility of making it work is inherent on its own nature. So we write the program, right? If we use that paradigm, or we create the mental equivalent, and then we press run for the program, or as we say, we release it into the law, knowing that the outcome is predictable. I think that's pretty accurate to what Holmes was saying as well, right? Once we have released it, we know that the outcome is predictable. We know what's going to happen. Sometimes you might hear someone during a prayer saying, acknowledging this by saying, God is on the job. Right? That's the same concept. And I feel like we've got an extra microphone on here somewhere. I guess not. I seem to be getting an echo. Anyway, so the topic, of course, as I said, was, Are you responsible? And I want to use this in a slightly different way, because many times when you're in a situation, and maybe this was a childhood situation, who's responsible for this mess? Right? This is them. Yeah, Judy says them, yeah. And phrasing it this way leads to a couple of other questions. And if we apply it to ourselves a minute, what did you do to cause this? Or do you deserve punishment for doing it? Right? Or that responsible thing is. Okay, but let's set those two questions aside for just a minute. And let's talk about what we call the Earth School and the curriculum of Earth School. Now, we chose, shall we say, the curriculum we chose the school that we wanted to attend knowing what the curriculum was. Let's put it that way. And it's not quite the same as K through 12. K through 12, everybody gets the same stuff. However, it's a little bit more like trade school or community school, where you specialize very quickly. And now you're going to study welding. You're going to study welding. You may not know that you're going to have this kind of joint and that kind of joint and, you know, all those kinds of things, but you know you're going to study welding. So in a sense, maybe we're not responsible for all the details of the curriculum that we've signed up for, but we are or were an active participant in choosing the course of study. If you wanted to, you know, put it in spiritual terms, if you wanted to learn more love, you might have chosen something different than someone who was wanting to learn self-worth. Might be a couple different kinds of ways. So there's a general areas of study, if you will. So if we're in Earth School, how do we know if we're, or how we're doing, or how we're performing, or are we passing, or are we failing Earth School? I mean, that might be important to know if you're in school. Reverend Sam used to say, today is yesterday's newspaper, right? So I'm going to say, just slightly different, today is yesterday's report card. Of course, that brings with it all the concept of tests and things like that, which might be a little more negative than just yesterday's newspaper. But the real point is how your life looks today depends on previous choices you made. No ifs, ands, or buts. So if you say, how do you feel? How about casting this? Do you feel free? What do you mean by that? Do you feel free from inner disturbance? Do you feel free from unnecessary emotional suffering? Or if you want to put it in sort of the karmic sense, do you feel free from bondage, from unresolved issues? And my podium has a mind of its own, as Judy said. I can do that. And you know, I don't know if any of you have had this experience, but I know I have. I don't want to go to that party because they might be there. You know, I might run into someone that I don't really want to see. Well, for me, I finally resolved that by saying, well, maybe they don't want to see me and they might not come because they don't want to see me. So, you know, just go with it. So the other way of looking at this is, what's the drama index of your life? So on a scale of 1 to 10, how much drama is in your life? Well, 1 might be calm, still waters. And number 10 might be a dumpster fire, right? All right, so let's go back to this prayer as an app paradigm and the reading as well. So we're responsible for creating the program. We're in charge of that. Or we create the mental equivalent, and the outcome is left to the law. And we also know that the law always says yes. It makes no judgment about what we place into the law. It makes no judgment, as I said, about who's turning the crank on the program. It says, yes, yes, my beloved, I will do that. So we always get what we're asking for. Remember, there was an old Toyota commercial that says, you asked for it, you got it. Toyota, you know. So the reason this works this way, I'm sure you all know, but we are co-creators. That's why we can use the law in that way. Well, anyway, chances are you know the answer to this question, and the question is, do we want to free ourselves from the drama? And I think that probably the answer is yes. So if that's the case, then there's a little bit of work we might want to do. So first of all, we start with a little introspection. Take an honest look at what's going on and consider what we may have done to contribute to the situation. Now, obviously, if you go out Friday night after getting paid and spend all your money at the bar, you might not have money for food or rent or gas the next week, right? So if you're sitting there saying, I don't have any gas for my truck, is there something perhaps you've done to contribute to that? So we know then we have to take personal responsibility for the choices we made. And if we don't do that, we can't achieve freedom. We must accept that the drama and the suffering we experience is a result of our choices. Otherwise, we're taking the role of a victim, like the guy who doesn't have gas for his truck because he drank the alcohol on. Anyway. So if we take that role, then everything in our life we see from a victim perspective. And going along with that is the fact that we make this assumption or acceptance that we're helpless to do anything about it. So with that, I say we run smack dab into one of the precepts of our philosophy. There are no victims. That's a toughie sometimes. But somehow, some way, we have participated in bringing about what is showing up in our life at this very moment. And if you want to call that causing it, okay. We have caused what we see. So the second question, if you recall, I said the other one was, if you're responsible then, do you deserve punishment? Well, we know it's of course not is the answer. But let's take an example here of a baby learning to walk. At first, it really looks like a little bit more like learning to fall than learning to walk. But do we punish the baby every time it falls down? No, we encourage it, we cheer for it. Yay, I remember when my grandson, I know when he walked his first few steps. I probably remember my kids, but the grandson was more, we were at my mother's house, and it was the first time that she had seen him. So the other thing is that the process of learning to walk or any kind of learning is not a one and done kind of thing. It's a process. It's an evolutionary thing. So now might the child get a few bumps and scrapes while they're learning to walk? And of course, we know the answer is yes. So is that punishment for not walking better? Mm-mm. And so some of us may not remember when we learned to walk, but perhaps you learned to ride a bike. You got a few bruises and bumps and scrapes for that as well. But was that punishment for not riding the bike good enough? I don't think so. So why then have somehow we assimilated into our very being that every time we make choices that don't work out so well, maybe call that creating more drama or anxiety or inner disturbances in our life, we think that the result is somehow punishment of us, or that it makes us a bad person. Why is God punishing me? My life looks like something. I don't know what's number 9 instead of a dumpster fire, but it looks okay. So what may feel like punishment from the perspective of the personality is an opportunity for growth from the perspective of the soul. We all know this, but we always don't know it here. And of course you're going to say, how can I be responsible for everything when I can't control what other people do? All right? And we'll use that well-worn example of someone cutting you off in traffic. How am I responsible? And we use the broad sense of the word responsible because somehow we participated in that experience. If nothing else, we chose that route to go to work. So we were participants in that. So maybe we weren't 100% responsible for it. We had some responsibility, But what we are responsible 100% of is for our response and the internal experiences related to the event. We're also responsible for the stories we tell about ourselves, or tell to ourselves and to others about the event. So do we want to live out that drama for the rest of the day, at the coffee machine? Oh, you wouldn't believe that jerk that cut me off, and stay upset all day. Hey, that is a choice, right? But we don't have to do that. So I would say to all of us, don't I have better things to do with my time than reliving this all day? Now, there have been some seemingly horrible events in the physical world these days. And I know something came to everyone's mind when I said that. So in Early Birds, we've been reading the book, Your Soul's Plan, which sheds some light on the soul's planning behind everything that happens in our lives, from illnesses to bombings. And so that's why I use the word seemingly horrible. So think of a event that only, maybe, I don't know, it could be a small event or a large event. But think about how hard it is for the spirit guides to get all those people in the same place at the same time for that disastrous or horrific event, so that that event can be a perfect expression of the divine. Can you swallow that? Every event is a perfect expression of the divine. You got to take a deep breath for that. And you probably, first thought that came to you is, that Edward guy has lost his marbles. Right? Well, I guess I have to say, let's think about one of these events. And I want to examine it from the perspective of a learning event. And I'm going to specifically take something like a mass shooting. All right, now that can't have anything to do with God. It was pretty bad. So think about it from the possibility, or is it possible? So we're going to ask this question. Is it possible that those who were killed in that event had planned that in some way for their spiritual development? How about those doing the killing? Is it possible that in some way those doing the killing had actually incorporated that into their life experience so that they could learn something? How about those left behind? A loved one or a spouse was killed. Is it possible that the one that was left behind knew that this was going to happen and that this would be a pivotal event in their spiritual growth? Is it possible? And how about those who were witnessing the killing? And that's like the rest of the world, right? We look at these situations and we go, oh no, that is so horrible, right? Is it possible that there's something in our viewing that, witnessing that, that is beneficial to our growth? Now, I don't say I know all the answers to, all these individual questions. But I will say that I believe deep inside that there is nothing wasted in spirit. There is nothing wasted in spirit. But now we say, I could never shoot somebody. Well, I think most of us look out at the world and we say, everybody's just pretty much like me. Maybe they have different colored hair or different colored skin or taller or shorter, it doesn't matter, but they're pretty much like me. Now in psychology, we've talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. right? And if you're worried, if you're down at the bottom of it, you're worried where your next meal is going to come from, you're not doing much at the higher part of it for spiritual realization or self-actualization or whatever the terms are, right? Well, souls of different ages incarnate on the earth at the same time. So there are those souls, shall we call them the younger ones, who are still learning to deal with the third dimensional or third plus time dimensional universe. Everything that's important to them is down here on the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They're learning love or lack of it by killing, perhaps. Again, I don't know. Where we may experience lack of love in an entirely different way. Someone insulting us, and we internalize that, and we read that as lack of love or something. At any rate, the older souls, shall we say, are usually learning about the emotions such as compassion and love, where the younger souls are learning about power and control and survival and the appropriate application of all of those. Well, you're going to say, yeah, that sounds all good, but I'm still going to have sympathy for the victims and I'm going to have hatred for the killers. Right? You can't tell me that, Both of these responses are based in judgment. Feeling sorry for the victim, and I'm going to quote victim, means that you've judged them to be helpless and you've placed them in the category of victim and helpless to do anything for themselves. This is a killer. You also pretend that you are sure you know what is spiritually best in that situation. The only spiritually aligned choice is to accept what is and to discern what, if any, action you want to take. So I'm going to read from a book I've read from this book before. It's called Loyalty to Your Soul, The Heart of Spiritual Psychology, and it's by Ron Holnick and Mary Holnick. I know these people. We had the same teachers. So as I was preparing today's talk or getting ready for it, I said, well, let's see. And I kind of survey my bookshelf, which is usually my desk shelf. I go, oh, let's try this book. Anyway, I also want to say that those of you who are in early birds are going to find what I read to be very congruent with what we're talking about and reading about in early birds. So let's just make sure I get the right place here. All right. I was thinking I lost my place. No, I didn't. Okay. From within the consciousness of the authentic self, you accept all the suffering and pain because you recognize that you don't know the spiritual opportunity or potential blessings existing within it. While there may be little or nothing you can do to alter what has occurred, there's one thing you can always do. Choose to be with those who are suffering in a compassionate and supportive way while they go through what they're dealing with. If, in case you don't know, the word compassion, the C-O-M part of compassion, means with, and compassion, or passion is a Latin word for suffering. So compassion literally means to be with the one who is suffering. If you're operating from within the ego-based judgmental model, your actions will always be consistent with your right-wrong orientation and will thus tend to be biased, short-sighted, and self-serving. If you attempt to alleviate suffering, you'll do so out of pity for the person in pain. Your actions are actually reactions from the ego-based perspective of, what they're going through is terrible. It would be awful if I had to go through that too. I feel sorry for them. This approach places those who are suffering in the victim mode and demonstrates a lack of spiritual awareness. For truly, how can you know what opportunity other persons' souls are deriving from their experiences? So the other side of my statement, I talked about feeling sorry for him and hating those who had done the killing, be it a mass killing or gang shooting or even war. Can we or should we respond with hatred for the killers? And of course, that's like, leading the witness here, of course. And we've heard all those expressions about hatred and anger, trying to throw acid on someone else with your bare hands and so on and so forth. So it is rather contradictory to respond to hatred with more hatred if you want to even judge it as hatred. There was a favorite line. This is kind of an aside, but I wanted to fit it in here. There's a favorite line, I think it's out of a Die Hard movie, where the main guy has been through, he's shot up and he's about to die. They're hauling him away in the ambulance. And just before they close the door, his girlfriend says, "Don't die on me. If you die on me, I'll kill you." So it's kind of like saying, pointing that finger. So we know the solution is, as co-creators, that we focus on what we want, not on what we don't want. So let's look at all of this from the perspective of humanity's attempts or humanity's learning love. Some of us learn anything through contrast, right? So if you look out there and you see that what doesn't appear to be love, these are the junior high kids learning how to love by contrast. So I think maybe the Vietnam War era songs had something going on. You remember that one, Make Love Not War? And all I'm saying is give peace a chance. Love is all there is. Maybe there was something there. So if you want there to be more love in the world, be the love you want to see. So we come back to the question, the first question, are you responsible? So as Holmes says, we are responsible for setting the law into motion. The rest is up to God. We are responsible for creating the mental equivalent or the program. We are responsible for the outcomes of the choices we make. We are responsible for our response to events, how we internalize that. We can choose to respond with acceptance and compassion rather than judgment. And as God is love and we are of God, we are responsible for extending love to everyone and every situation we encounter. And so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, let's take this to prayer. Just relax for a moment. We know that God is all there is. We know that Source is everything there is. And as important as that knowing is the knowledge, the understanding, and the belief that we are of that Source. We are co-creators with God. And so we step into that co-creation moment for ourselves and for others, and in particular for those in our community who are suffering, be it suffering health-wise. Let's call it facing challenges rather than suffering. Maybe challenges financially, challenges relationship-wise. We just hold for them as we hold for ourselves, that they are divine beings, that the experience that they are having is the experience of oneness, gaining more and more wisdom. Everything we look out at is experiencing the opportunity to learn another facet of love, learn it deeper. So we hold this, as I said, for ourselves. We hold this for those who are struggling, those who are facing challenges, no matter what it is. There is no challenge which is too great for God. There's no challenge for which the universe doesn't support the resolution of. So we give thanks that we understand that. And we place in the mind, in the law, the mental equivalent of peace and harmony for everyone that comes to mind. And we let it go. We let God do its part. And so it is. So now we have our musicians again. Is that correct?
No,
No?
we have me and the MP3.
Oh, okay. So I'll get out of here. Yes. So we do have a song, and I guess, all right, so this is a participatory song, right?
This is a congregational song.
All right, so you all get to participate in this one.
So please stand if you are able. And Cleona. seated. Thank you, Nancy, from above. That was her playing the piano. As we acknowledge and receive our virtual gifts, in-person gifts, we give great thanks for offerings already given and those we will be receiving, because we know that giving and receiving are both part of the one flow. We affirm that we are also part of that flow. We bless these gifts and know they are multiplied throughout our community. There are a number of folks who have contributed to the production of this service, and we are grateful for their service, and we thank you for joining us today. And lastly, stay around in the Zoom meeting after service to visit or join us in the social hall. Please stand if you are able and read with me the benediction followed by the congregational song. Spirit in the midst of us is mighty. Joy, peace, and eternal life are our true nature and flow through us into the world, and so it is.